Hello, everybody. Hey now, and welcome to another edition of Courtside with Christy and Gabe right here on the Her Hoop Stats Podcast Network. I am Christy Winter Scott, joined as always by my guy, Gabe Ibrahim. Gabe, the WNBA season is packed away. Congrats again to the back-to-back champs. The Las Vegas Aces, God, they just did it. And, I'm still kind of, got a little afterglow about the whole thing. What a fun parade they had and all that. But time to flip the page to college hoops, which is right around the corner. And fans from the WNBA go right into the college basketball season. And then at the end of the college season, you go right into the WNBA. I love the meshing of the ocean of the WNBA and college ranks. But what are you most excited about coming up in the college scene?
That's a whole podcast, Christy. We have to lock in on the Big Ten.
Lock it in. Let's go.
And even then, if I was to discuss what I was most excited for just the Big Ten, it might take the whole podcast. It's just going to be a great season. It got cold last week. It was nice. It was like, ooh, I'm wearing my basketball hoodies, my sweatpants. Yeah. I was like, ooh, it's the season. It got warm again, but we'll get there. It'll eventually be cold.
80.
But man, I don't know. There is so much to be excited for in this college basketball season. I mean, I think last season we saw, women's basketball reach another level in terms of college, and we were there for the Final Four. And I was just looking back at that game. I was looking at pictures of Caitlin against South Carolina, and then LSU versus Iowa. And it was just like, it all came back, it's all coming back. It's all coming back to us now. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm pumped. I think if I had to say one thing I'm most excited for, I'm excited for the Paris game. That's like next week.
I can't wait. Too bad we can't go. It's fine, but we're going to get there eventually.
South Carolina.
Olympics. Yeah. We're going to line that up.
My
couple months.
By the way, I should mention this. Okay. I just want to give a shout out to my cousin. I don't think he's listening to this podcast. He's busy. But I want to give a shout out to my cousin, Saeed Morasavi. He is the head coach of the U.S. women's national flag football team.
Hello.
And congratulations to them. They are going to be in the Olympics in 2028.
2028.
Yes, not the next one, which is
that's the plug. Then we're going to hit up your cousin to go to Paris and watch flag football.
I had
go to the gym and watch USA basketball.
When he told me this could be in the Olympics a couple years ago, I was like, which one?
I know.
But he's a great coach. I watched the women's national team play in the summer, and they are awesome.
Wow.
They are awesome. And they played some good teams. Like Mexico has a very good team, and they wiped the floor with them. So I am very excited to see our women's national flag football team and the men's too in the Olympics.
Somehow I always got tackled in flag football. That's why I stopped playing. I was like, there's a flag on me. Like, pull that. Like, why am I on the ground in the grass? Like, grass stains and all that. Like, we don't have time. That's why I like basketball better, because that's stuff is not my jam. So
also you gotta wear a helmet in football, and I'm not like, for tackle football, I'm not about it.
Yeah, I needed one for flag, and I didn't have one, which is why I stopped playing.
But what are you most excited for, Christy, in the college basketball season? Sorry to take us off track into the flag football.
No, I had a little reminiscing that I did with it. But anyway, hey, I'm excited for all of it too. But I'm excited just overall, the huge landscape of women's basketball, obviously drawing in close to 10 million, what was it, 9.9 and some change million viewers. And then sold out arenas down in Dallas where we were. Cheryl Miller was there. It's just all the good juju, all the good magic moments that give you chills, or just me. Maybe it's just me that gets the goosebumps on the back of the neck and on the arms. That I don't know. Maybe no one else gets up at me, but it was just something to build on. So I'm looking for the build, like you said as well, and the following from the WNBA fans, just dumping and pouring right back into the next wave of WNBA stars. And just to give them that support on the collegiate level, I think is major. But I'm also looking to see what LSU looks like on paper. I mean, it's scary hours, and I know Halloween is coming up, but it's scary hours on paper when you look at LSU's roster, okay? And the fact that they won it last year with a lot of transfers. And that's going to be another overriding theme for a lot of conferences, a lot of teams who have either lost a lot of players to the transfer portal or conversely have picked up players out of the portal and will change their dynamics as a roster and maybe their philosophy on how they play because of who they picked up. So, or lost. Okay. They have to change also. But for me, it's going to be really exciting to see the carryover. And, you know, if the teams on paper rise to the occasion on the court in between the lines, that's what I want to see.
Well, and you mentioned LSU, and right at the middle of all of that was Iowa as well. And that was, I mean, it was special. It was truly special to be at that Final Four. I think we kind of witnessed something that's going to be in our memory for a long time as a collective, not just for the people who were there. And I think, you know, I think we should start at Iowa for a bunch of different reasons. You know, Caitlin Clark, obviously. But we saved this from last week. And we didn't really talk about your experience calling a women's college basketball game in a football stadium in front of 60,000, 55,000?
55,646. I don't know if I was counted in that number. So 647. No, I don't know. But I mean, a tremendously amazing, historical, groundbreaking, I don't know, all the other adjectives that you can use for amazing. Just plug them in at your leisure, because another moment where, you know, the goosebumps were going crazy on me throughout the day. I mean, walking into the empty stadium, but knowing it was going to be packed in a couple hours after. And, you know, I always try to capture videos because I try to stay in the moment, but I also want to relive moments. So I over video, I overtake pictures because, you know, I know these moments are fleeting and I try to savor them all. So I try to capture them all. So I walked in and it was empty. And I mean, can you imagine that? An empty football stadium. And then there's the basketball court, legal size, 94 feet. And it's like this, it looks like the court is this big, you know, because of how enormous that stadium was. But I mean, it was rocking and rolling, and I couldn't stop looking at the little kids who were there, man, and just imagining me at 8, 9, 10 years old, being able to see the respectability given to women in sports. And Nebraska had just done it, you know, a month ago for volleyball at 92 or at that stadium, and they played outside. So I don't know. I think that, you know, the whole moniker of if you build it, they will come. I mean, that stands true when you see the amount of support and the amount of respect. And that was the word I used over and over again in Iowa City for that game. I mean, it's heartwarming to know that the game is moving in the right way, right? And the game is being built on brick by brick every single day. And it was just an amazing moment. I know I said that already as my word, but I can't think of a stronger one. And I loved being in there. I loved the honor of sitting there in that moment, knowing that was the first, but not the last of those kinds of situations. So it was beautiful, simply.
Well, I want to get your, I want to see if you agree with this. You know, you said if you build it, they will come. To me, I think in women's basketball and women's sports more generally, but especially in women's college basketball, it's built.
It is built.
We're here. Like we don't, you know, we don't have to concern ourselves, I think, as a community here with the respect. If you don't respect women's basketball, it's always been true. That's your problem. And I think, you know, the entire country is kind of feeling that too. I mean, like, you know, my mom had opinions on last year's national championship game, and it wasn't just because I was there. You know, she didn't have one on the year before, and so, you know, she was into it, and I think it's just really clicked. Recently for a lot of people who were not into it or disrespected it or just like didn't want to accept it. I think now it's kind of just, you know, even if you have a negative opinion about the WNBA, which again, that's your problem still, but regardless, I think on them, even those people that had to have those opinions that I've heard, still say college is like they have that full and complete sort of respect for it. And I think it's wonderful. And, I think we're going to see that come in the ratings and the NIL deals and the attention these teams get and all of those great things that come with it. But it all starts on the basketball court. And I think the reason why this is happening is because talent is just out of control. This is the most talented basketball in general, and women's basketball has been ever. I think it's fair to say ever.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the balance and the parity that you see across the board in the women's game. I mean, you can go to the WNBA and say that as well. I mean, there's just a bevy of talent throughout both the WNBA and the NCAA. So I think that's why, you see the light at the end of the tunnel if you're a collegiate player. I mean, whether that's playing overseas or playing in the WNBA, there's an actual incentive, actual, tangible situation that you could get to if you work
NIL.
your butt off, or NIL. If you work your butt off every day. And I think that's what we've seen also is just, obviously you're passionate about the game. Obviously we're passionate about the game. We love the game, which is why we're staying as close as we can to it. Right.
Yes.
So, I mean, that's a given. That's a common denominator for everyone. Everyone loves it. But how much do you love it? To stay committed to it, to be driven by your character while things aren't going your way. How do you come back from that? And I think that's the true test of character is when things aren't going your way, when things are a struggle, when you are outside of your comfort zone, when you do have to earn it and not be handed anything, and you want it that way. But I think it teaches you so much about yourself, and it teaches you how much do you love something and how much do you want to be connected on a daily basis, right? To it. And I know everyone's human and you need breaks. I get it. But at the same time, man, I don't know. I don't need too many breaks from basketball because I just, like in between seasons, I'm just like, hey, can I get the gym? I'm like, I just want to watch basketball. I don't care who's playing. I need to look at it. I need to watch it. I'm glad the NBA is back right now. Like college basketball is turning the hard left with the screeching wheels right into that season. I'm ready for it because I love it and I'm invested in that love, and people say it's what I do. It's not who I am. I don't know if I can actually say that because I think it is who I am. I think it's what I do, talk about it now, but it's what I do, but it forms who you are. It really does. So I don't think you could separate that. And I think I've said that before. Yeah. You can't separate whether it's what you do and who you are, because you become who you are through the game in whatever capacity you're connected to it. So it is who I am. And I love it. And I'm not apologizing for that.
Coach Scott, we got a little Coach Scott there.
Coach Scott is
bringing it out of retirement.
Yeah.
No, I mean, if you're around basketball, it's just it's very easy to have it imbued in your character. And we've always said this. It is part of it. Is you play the game the way you are in life, and then I think you are in life the way you play the game.
Yes.
That's the way it goes. Let's get into the actual basketball, and talk about what's going to happen in this conference this year. Last year, plenty of surprises, but we still had the teams that we thought were the best make it far, do really well, get 1 seeds. Had some upsets in the tournament, but still really great year in the Big Ten. Yeah. But maybe one of the best years ever in the Big Ten. How many teams did they have in the top 10 at one point? I remember we had the stat. It was 4 teams in the top 10.
It was 4, and 3 teams for the first time ever made it to the Elite 8.
Yes.
So 3 of the 8 teams were from the Big Ten. So yeah.
And one of them didn't make it because Indiana, they lost to Miami, which obviously Miami was great. But in that game, Mackenzie Holmes was hurt. So that's that changes the complexion of the game completely. But Indiana was right there. So I think it could have been really close to having half the Elite 8 be from the Big Ten.
Easily.
And I think let's start with those teams that we that made the Elite 8. Let's start with the favorites. I think there's 4 teams here. Let me know if you disagree that really stand out above the rest. I would put Indiana, Iowa, Maryland, and Ohio State. Same 4 teams that finished at the top last year.
Yeah.
back at the top this year.
Yeah.
And I think, we were talking about before the podcast, your theme of bringing everyone back. These teams are bringing a lot back from those teams last year that were so good. They're bringing a lot of players back. There's departures, and we'll talk about them. But just overall, for these 4 teams, how important is that experience going to be coming into the season?
I mean, that's major, right? You're talking about chemistry. You're talking about not having to reteach. If you're a coach, you don't have to reteach your philosophy. It's like you have players who have been through the trenches with you. They understand. So not only do they have the chemistry, but they're also teaching the new players who are in the program. So, and there's nothing like that. I don't care what anyone else says. If you haven't coached, you don't feel what that feels like to walk into a gym and not have to reinvent the wheel. God, like how far back do we have to start and meet them where they are and now build back again? No, you've already built all that and you have everybody back. You may have a couple little seasonings of a couple of players coming in to your program that are new. But listen, you're starting at square 10 instead of square 2 with your teaching. So chemistry is going to be huge. And, for all the teams you just mentioned, those 4 teams, it's plug and play when it comes to philosophy and their desired tempo, their defensive schemes. Like that's already built in. Their cultures are built in. You're going to see a 2-2-1 press from Ohio State. You may see a triangle and 2 from Iowa. You may see a lot of switching at all 5 spots from Maryland. Like those are just things that are just the common denominator of who those teams will be, regardless of what their personnel is like, because that's what has brought them success. So, man, I'm excited. I know Iowa, they bring back 3 of their 5 starters. Indiana, 4 of their starters. Like they lost Grace Berger to the WNBA, and Maryland lost Abby Myers and Diamond Miller to the league, to the WNBA. So, hey, man. And then Taylor Mikesell was drafted as well out of Ohio State. So, I mean, they're missing some big name players, obviously. And, Monica Sonano, and Hannah Warnock. I mean, that was a lot of 40% of their offense. So we get it. But with people coming right back into the fold, I think chemistry is going to be a huge advantage for those teams to stay at the top of the conference.
Well, and I think, just age, like, we forget this because I think a lot of people view this through the lens of like, the professionals, but if you're older, like having a grad student be able to play against freshmen, there's just a huge difference in terms of mental maturity, physical maturity, knowledge of the game, understanding of the speed of the game. Like having older players in general, regardless if they've been in your program, I think gives you a sense of comfort of saying, I can put this person out there,
trust,
and they'll at least do what I can know they can do.
Yeah, they understand.
Whereas, there's a less consistency the further down you go in age. So I think that's huge for a lot of these teams. And, I think there's really interesting mixes too. Like I want to get into Maryland's mix of young and old, or older. None of these players are older in college. Experienced players. Because I think it's going to be interesting how those 2 groups interact in terms of like how they play on the court together, and how, the older experienced players give that experience to the younger players. That's going to be huge for a team like Maryland this year.
Yeah.
But just like, I love it. I love getting people back. Yeah. We know the names. I know what they're going to do. I'm not going to sit there and say, I don't know how this person plays. No, I know how everyone plays. Right. So I'm pumped about it. I think it's going to lead to a tremendous season. I want to start. Let's. Well, which team do you want to start with? Because I have an order here, but we could start however you want.
Yeah, I mean, we could start with Iowa just because they were named preseason number 1 this year. Indiana, they won the regular season title last year, but Iowa beat them in the Big Ten tournament. So let's just start with Iowa and what Lisa Bluter is expecting from her team, to be in the stadium, and Caitlin Clark comes right back and gets a triple-double with those 34 points. I believe she had 10 rebounds and 11 assists. Come on, man. It was insane. Like when they played DePaul, But it's just the ease of the game is something that's so impressive when you're watching Caitlin Clark play.
And I think obviously we know what Clayton Clark's going to do. We
Mhm.
talked about her saying that this is her last year.
Yeah,
Well, she's treating this.
treating it.
That's
And
such a
yeah.
lawyer. That's a lawyer answer, Caitlin. I know we talked about the law firm maybe temporarily separated her. Sonano went off to hang her own shingle.
She did.
And so Clark is on her own. She's gonna have to come up to make someone else a partner, maybe Gabby Marshall or Hannah Stolke. She's gonna have to raise someone else a partner. Also, just like in the comments, let me know if you're watching Suits. I watched Suits in law school and I've come back to it. That show's insane. But so Caitlin very lawyerly answers saying, "I'm treating this as my last year," because it doesn't give away what she's gonna do.
No,
but that's massive for the WNBA going forward. But I think this year we know what Caitlin Clark is. She's the best player in college basketball, bar none. And that is not disrespect to a single player in this league or in this country.
Yeah.
You can look at it, watch the tape. If you can watch the tape and tell me that there's someone that is much better than her unequivocally, hey, we can have that debate. But I think when you see her, she is the best player in the country, and that's why this team made it so far.
Mm-hmm.
However, Monica Sama and McKenna Warnock, that's no joke losing those two players. That was such a huge part of their identity, their culture, and what they did on the court.
Yeah.
How do you see them? You don't replace players like that.
No.
But you do have to move on from players like that. So how do you see them moving on from those two?
Oh, obviously it's going to be tough because then you're talking about experience. Sonano came back last year for her 5th year. So, I mean, you could feel that she got the COVID year back and, made that run to the championship game with the team. So that's going to be tough to replicate because you have Hannah Stolke, who was magnificent, in their first couple of preseason games. She was great last year. She's worked on her free throw percentage, which is, an Achilles heel for her statistically. But I think she shot over 60% from the floor when she was in, but she only played 12, 13 minutes. So now those minutes are going to be extended. So now will that production keep up with the effectiveness and efficiency of her offense? But I also think she brings the wear and tear on the defensive end that you need. She crashes the glass on both sides. Extra possessions, you need that. So I think Hannah Stolke is up for partner with Caitlin Clark, but she is only a sophomore. She's a baby. So the experience piece, that may show a couple of times, but I mean, if I'm Lisa Bluter, I don't care. Like, I'm throwing her to the wolves. She's ready. She's been working against, a player like Monica Sonano all last year in practice, battling her every single day. And I know what that feels like, battling a 2-time Olympian every day in college myself. So that helped me. I mean, the games were easy. Yeah. I was like, when's the next game? Because practice today. Got my head split. So I think just her experience playing against Monica last year in practice, I think will help Hannah Stolke and Gabby Marshall too. I mean, she's coming back for her 5th year, and I don't know, Kate Martin too. I mean, they have experience. So, I mean, I think it's going to balance itself out.
Yeah, I think Skolke, I think that's you really, I think you hit the nail on the head in terms of who's the X factor for his team this year, because she needs to be really good, and I think she is. She's extremely talented. We've seen her do great things many times. So it's not like the talent's there. It's that consistency. It's revving up, scaling up your production and staying on the court. So all those things that you mentioned, I think that's dead on. That is the X factor for them. I think Kate Martin's going to be huge. As you mentioned, she's gonna have to up her production as well. She's gonna have to fill a little bit more of what McKenna Warnock did, which is like a lot of stuff.
Threes, baby, from the perimeter.
Threes, rebounding, like all of it. But I think we've seen Kate do it, and same with Gabby.
We have.
The question is, who's the 5th starter on this team? If we say it's Caitlin Clark, Gabby Marshall, Kate Martin, Hannah Skolke, we know those 4 starters.
Yeah.
I have right now Molly Davis. She's the most experienced, and when you look at this team, she's the player who played the most last year. But I wonder if that's just going to be something that, changes as the season goes on, because you're going to be playing. Gabby Marshall and Molly Davis are undersized guards. I don't know how much you want them together.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know what what Lisa Bluter is going to do, but they do have a question mark there, and I think it's substantial. It's substantial.
Yeah, no, I agree, and that's what when you were saying that,
Yeah.
with Molly Davis. Although I love her and her head
Yes.
stays right there, baby. I don't know, Molly. Talk to me, honey. I don't know how that stays in there, but no, she's a fantastic player off the bench, right?
Mhm.
Last year played
Yes.
quality minutes for Iowa. Really came in and just did her job, started in her role. All of the cliche things that you say
Mhm.
about players who impact the game when they come in a positive way. You can say that about Molly Davis easily. But I think when you have the lack of size, that Iowa has, you also know that Lisa Bluter comes up with defensive schemes like amazingly. And then the thing about it is they'll practice on the situations and they'll practice on, the different ways that they can defend. So when they do need to make an adjustment and go from what Lisa Bluter says, player to player, she doesn't say man to man, she says player to player. When they break away from that, it's not like it's a brand new thing, right? It's not like, well, I'm just pulling it out of my ear and we're just going to try it, even though that works sometimes. And we've talked about that too. But Lisa Bluter, like, she has so many different ways to, to make the defense work for who they have, right? Size or not, she's going to figure it out. So that'll be something to anticipate as well. Defensively, everyone looks at what they are doing on the offensive end because they led the country in assists. They led the country in scoring last year.
Mhm.
So everyone's looking at their offensive numbers. And that happened with Golden State years ago when they ripped off all those championships. They're like, oh my God, their offense is so spread out and there's 5 out and it's hard to guard. But I'm like, they were the top defensive team in the NBA. So let's make sure that we're looking at both sides of what Iowa does well. Let's look at how their defense carried them to the championship game last year and the different ways that they were able to defend those teams throughout that 6-game stretch. So, I mean, the creativity and the basketball savant crown goes on the head of Lisa Bluter when it comes to being able to manage throughout a game and make the proper adjustments on the defensive end.
Yeah, and hey, look, their offense also helps their defense. Caitlin Clark she terrifies teams, and I think that it showed up in that South Carolina game last year where they took away an offensive rebounding advantage that South Carolina had because of their pace, because of their offense, and that really helps the defense. But I think, if they figure out that 5th starter spot, this team could be better defensively because I think Hannah Skolke provides a little bit more rim protection. I think she's just a little bit more of a dynamic defender than Monica Sonano, although Monica was better than I think people give her credit for. I just think they could be a little bit better defensively if they figure out that 5th starter spot. And that's gonna be a theme throughout the year. And I wouldn't be shocked if that's just like something that changes over time. But I just don't think you can be undersized in this league in particular. The other teams we're about to talk about, I mean, they're huge. The Indiana, Maryland, Ohio State are massive.
Yeah.
They are huge teams.
Yeah.
And it's like you can't have 2 players there that can be taken advantage of unless you have a great defensive system, and Lisa Bluter will come up with one. So hopefully we see that from Iowa. And hey, look, if they win the Big Ten this year, I think it's going to be a little bit more impressive than it was last year because they have it now. It's new. Okay, you had that team that was together for a long time.
Right.
We have change. Can you keep it going? And I think they will. I think they're going to be right up there. I'll tell you who I think is going to win the Big Ten in a little bit. It's not Iowa.
We have breaking news.
It's not Iowa.
Break the news, Gabe. Just say it.
Do you want me to go to the team that I think is going to win the Big Ten?
Yes. Spill it.
OHIO. Ohio State.
Oh, that's some tea. Where's my tea? Where I need my tea? My pinky out on that one. Wow. Ohio State. Back up the reasoning.
So last year, I mean, hey, look, last year was great. Fourth in the Big Ten, got to the Big Ten championship game, 3 seed, made it to the Elite 8. Beat UConn, which is, hey, that's awesome when you can beat UConn in the tournament. That's a banner that you can't put up. They lose Taylor Mikesell, but they bring back the vast majority of this team. And in place of Taylor Mikesell, they bring in a heck of a transfer in Celeste Taylor from Duke. And you want to talk about one of the best fits of a transfer to a program this year?
Legit.
she's going to be amazing in the press system. She's going to be amazing in this offensive system where she's, she doesn't have to do everything she did at Duke offensively.
No.
She can kind of, she's going to have a more favorable matchup most nights. She's going to play a huge role on this team. And then you look at the rest of, the group and I'm just going to go JC Sheldon and Cody McMahon, because I think those two are going to be all Big Ten. I think JC is going to go high in the draft, like she would have last year had she come out.
Yeah.
And has she been healthy all season? So hopefully health is going to be there all season for her.
Mm-hmm.
And then Cody McMahon, to me, is the breakout player. I've been Church of Cody. I pray at the Church of Cody. I worship at the altar of McMahon, because she is like, there's just players that you love. And when she drives to the rim, it is both beautiful and brutal in a way that's like, you got to look at like a LeBron type, or even like Asia, a smaller is she smaller than Asia Wilson? But like when Asia drives to the rim, it's like there's this beauty and this power together. And I think Cody McMahon has that. I just think she's going to have, I mean, she had a breakout year last year. I think she's going to get even better. I think she may be in the player of the year discussion. She may be, if I think if Ohio State gets to be as good as I think, she may be in the player of the year discussion, because I just think she's going to be amazing. But so and their bench is solid. They have so much experience, and Kevin McGuff, that press that wins you a lot of games in the regular season, and if you get the right matchup in the postseason, you're cruising. So I really think they're going to be the power in this conference. And I'm not sure a lot of people are expecting it. I'm not sure I think everyone's talking about Iowa. Everyone's looking at Indiana. Watch out for Ohio State. That's a team that could really, really put their foot down in this conference.
No, agreed. I mean, Kevin McGuff, he's just done a masterful job at organizing his players. I mean, they ripped off 19 straight games last year during a stretch. They got ranked at number 2 in the country at one point. But then I think fatigue kind of hit them, to be honest, because they were playing the same amount of players, maybe 7-8 players, like massive minutes. And then those games and the travel started to catch up with them towards the latter part of the season.
And then working in JC at that time too.
Without JC.
Yeah.
And so their rotation was really tight. But I think when you have players like Cody McMahon, who are just nonstop. I mean, you're talking about an engine. That kid has a motor. And I know you mentioned LeBron, Asia Wilson, but let's just throw Alyssa Thomas's name into it. Well, like, come on. And it's like the same, it's like the brutal beauty of it all, right? They're going to bring all the smoke, climb the chimney, get all of that. And then you're going to just have to take it, because you can't get out of their way, because they bring all the power game to the floor. But I mean, it's just nonstop action, and you just never look at Cody McMahon, and she's never standing still. Like, I don't care what side of the floor she's on. She's either sprinting like a locomotive down the floor offensively, or to recover on defense, or in the court. She is always either setting a screen, she's cutting, she's moving, she's relocating, boom, boom, boom. I mean, she is always on the move. So that's tough to guard. And speaking of tough to guard, their press, listen, JC Sheldon said, and Taylor Mikesell too, prior to last year, like, what is it about that press? And I remember Taylor Mikesell telling me, hey, listen, like, sometimes it's not even schematic, and it makes it tougher to guard because you're flying around. So you're watching film, and it's like, you're, as a coach, and you know this, you're looking for rules. Okay, when the ball goes here, this is what they do. Okay, now they do it 10 different ways. In the first half, we saw 10 different rotations in their press. So now what? So now you're working on how to break that press 10 different ways. Good luck with that. And sometimes it's just, we're just moving organically. Like we don't have rules to it. Like, we're just going and staying on a string with one another. And it depends on where the ball is, what we do. So I'm sorry, but that just makes it tough to guard. I mean, defensively, if you can do that and stay disciplined, like Ohio State was able to do, 19 straight wins doing that last year, number 2 in the country, doing that. I don't know. And then they add a new piece too. Oh God. I might have to get on that bus with you with going to Columbus, Ohio.
Well, I think,
because just talking about it out loud, I'm like,
the Buckeye, it's just like this conference,
Yeah.
like it is in football, which I love, it's about physicality. This conference is about physicality.
It is.
Not necessarily just down the post, just like all over physicality in the press, in the defense. Everyone has to be uber physical. And I just think Ohio State has the dogs to be the most physical, to out physical you. And you know, I'm sure if Maryland's listening to this, they're gonna be like, whoa. But in Indiana and Iowa as well. But I just think Ohio State has that size. I mean, you got Taylor Theory playing the two. Like she's playing the two.
She's running the wing. Yeah.
It's like, I mean, I was stoked while I was putting together their depth chart and just thinking about all of the things they're going to do defensively, because I really think that this is the year, Ohio State. I think they could be, I'll say, I think they'd be a Final Four team.
Okay.
I think they'd be a Final Four team.
We're writing them down. We're writing notes down, baby.
Usually, I have like, I pick like a few teams it could be Final Four. I put them up there. I just think that's like, I think they have that in them this year.
They do have a formula. I see it. I can see that forming. I can actually see it. And and how hungry JC is. You're just seeing her, a couple of weeks ago in Minneapolis at the Big Ten Media Day. Like, she's ready. Mm-hmm. I mean, she's never not ready, but not being healthy is something that's out of your control. And she's so frustrated. Tried to come back towards the end of last year, but you could tell it was just, it was difficult for her to get back in rhythm. But hopefully, she stays healthy throughout this year, because I want to see all the pieces in place. I want to see a healthy Ohio State team.
Yeah. And last year, I mean, the reason they didn't make it to the Final Four is because they played Virginia Tech, and that team happens to have one of the few point guards in the world that can break this press on her own consistently. Georgia Amoore. There is like
more. Mm-hmm.
How many players can we name that could do that? I mean, Caitlin Clark, but outside of her, outside Georgia Amoore, outside maybe Paige, like there's just not that many teams in the country that have point guards who can break this press consistently on their own, which means you're in that situation that you were just talking about trying to prepare for all of these different types of presses and just the physicality and the pressure you're going to face playing this team. I think it's going to cause fits. I think that they're going to. Well, I'm pumped. I'm pumped for Ohio State, which is crazy because I don't like Ohio State because of football. Due to football reasons, I have to not like Ohio State. But I love this team. I love this team.
That's funny.
Do you want to get anything else on Ohio State, or do you want to move on to another one of the favorites?
No, we can move on to another one.
Okay. So where do you want to go? You picked first, I picked second, you picked third.
Oh, I have the third pick. With the third pick, we're going with the Indiana Hoosiers.
Ooh,
Hoosiers. Terry Morin's squad, and what she has been able to do. And they haven't been healthy the last couple of seasons at the end of the year. Mm-hmm. And last year, Grace Berger missed a chunk of time after being injured around the Thanksgiving holiday break, a tournament they went to out west on the West Coast. But I think this team with a healthy Mackenzie Holmes is going to make a world of difference, because there are not a lot of effective and efficient post players throughout the country, right? Mm-hmm. That have the efficiency and footwork that she has inside the paint. And I don't care if she gets doubled. I mean, I think that's something that she really did a great job with last year, was reading out of double teams and kicking it opposite, or making the proper read on when the dig downs were going to come. And she was able to make her teammates better in those moments.
Yeah. And she's Mackenzie Holmes. It's like Caitlin Carter. Just like she's Mackenzie Holmes. We know what she's going to do. We know what she's going to be as long as she's healthy. This team's in it. This team's in it because she's one of the best players in the country, and a Player of the Year candidate and everything. Who actually, I haven't seen it. Who was picked Player of the Year in media day? Well, Caitlin Clark. Yeah, sorry, that's
Clark was. Yeah, nationally though, Mackenzie Holmes was on the AP All-American list with Clark as well. So
absolutely. I mean, there's going to be competition for
Yeah.
those center spots this year, but I think
Yeah.
Mackenzie Holmes has a great chance to be there. But you look at the rest of the starting five; it's pretty freaking good.
Yeah.
You go Scalia, Garzone, Moore, McNeil, and Parrish, and all four of those players on the team last year. All four of those players, a ton of experience.
Yeah.
In part because Grace Berger got hurt, they had to live without Grace Berger, so they learned how to live without and play better. I think Sydney Parrish had a breakout year last year as a 3-point shooter. I think Chloe Moore McNeil, I mean, just like some of the flashes from her are very special. I want to see her with the ball in her hands more. And then Garzone is just, I mean, she was super a diaper dandy, as they call him, a diaper dandy. And she's going to be, I think she should be a sophomore sensation as well. So, I mean, hey, look, they finished first in the Big Ten last year. They made it to semifinals of the Big Ten tournament, second round ACC NCAAs.
Mm-hmm.
I'll ask you, do you think they're going to have a better year this year?
If they stay healthy, absolutely. Absolutely. I think the way that they play defense and the discipline that they play with on the offensive end, like the proper shots are being taken. I just think that has been really good for them. And I think for me, it's going to be all about, them returning 4 starters and them staying healthy actually has to be at the top of the list. But when it comes down to it, I just think that they're hungry. I don't think they're satisfied with how last season ended after really just running the table basically in conference play and winning the regular season championship, which was so hard to do with 7 teams going to the NCAA tournament last year. Okay. And Indiana was at the top of the regular season before the tournament started for the Big Ten. So I just think with them, it's going to be tough to stop all of them at once. Like Chloe Moore McNeil is just, she's an X factor for them for sure. Defensively as well. She straps every single time. There's never a let up. There's never a miscue defensively. Like she takes so much pride in her defensive efforts that, you just love to have a kid like that on your team. But with Mackenzie Holmes inside, I mean, she's going to a lot of touches. And I think you're talking about more McNeil to have the ball a little bit more. I want Mackenzie Holmes to get 15 to 20 times. Hey, and make reads. And that's not shoot it 15, 20 times. That's like get those touches because the defense is going to move and you have so many threats. Parrish can knock in those threes on kickouts, spray it around. Everybody can get a look or attack closeouts, with a hard dribble drive to the elbows. There's so many options and it's going to be tough to defend that team if they're all healthy and they're all clicking on all cylinders. And Terry Morin has them doing what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, and Mackenzie Holmes is a game breaker, like Caitlin Clark is, because there's no one to guard Caitlin Clark, like Ohio State's press is, because there's not that many point guards that can break it. Mackenzie Holmes is that type of player because there's just not that many posts in the country that can stand up to her, and we saw that time and time again.
Hey, you froze.
Classes. Oh, I froze. You froze. We're frozen. Hey, are we back?
You froze, but you're back.
Frozen. We're back. I was gonna sing a song, but I'm worried about copyright.
I was too, but I can't sing, so I was gonna let you do it.
I was gonna sing a song. Do you want to build a snowman? I'll just say it. All right,
we can say it, not sing it. That's good because neither one of us can sing.
So. I just want I forgot to mention this when we were doing the other teams. I did want to say some of the big games early on in the season. We have Indiana going to Stanford on November 12th, so in a couple weeks. That's a nice game. We get Cameron Brink, Mackenzie Holmes. Hey, we found one of the posts who could make a good matchup. We found one. So we'll have that's a huge matchup for Ohio State. I think this is their first game of the season is against Southern Cal in Las Vegas for the Hall of Fame Classic. Juju Watkins in that game. So Southern Cal is on the rise. They're ranked this year. I think that's going to be a good test for Ohio State. And then Iowa against Virginia Tech at home on ESPN 2. Saucy on the night.
That's a goodie.
I like that. That's going to be a great matchup. And then I'll just say Maryland is going to South Carolina on the 12th as well. So the 12th is a big day. I think that's a Sunday. Yeah, 12th is a Sunday. So huge games early on for all of these teams are going to be tested early. We're going to see if I'm right and or wrong. Probably wrong. I'm probably wrong at some point.
I think there's some credence to it, Gabe. I like what you were saying about Ohio State.
I say rational things, but I'm usually wrong. Where are we? We are talking about. We could do anything else on Indiana before.
No, just anxiously awaiting. They're back on the court, and I'm sure they are as well. And I know they're super hungry, and they don't want any excuses. And it's the reality of it. Like, you don't want to say, well, we weren't healthy. Well, you weren't. And that's the reality of it. It's not an excuse. It's like actually what happened, right? And you have to make do and do time, get everybody back healthy, and you roll with that too. So we'll see what that looks like for them. I'm happy for them. I'm excited for them.
So Christy, what's the jersey behind you say?
Oh, wait, let me go this way. Bam.
Merlin.
Yeah, that says Merlin. See, I learned how to say it in a different way. See, Merlin. M-U-R-A-L.
Shouts to Baltimore for coming up with new words.
Merlin.
Maryland. The Terrapins.
Merlin.
Huh? Merlin. Okay.
Yeah.
So the Maryland Terrapins, 28-7 last year, third in the conference, made it to the semifinals, 2 seed in the NCAA tournament, made it to the Elite Eight. Hey, look, this team lost a lot. We can say that they lost Abby Miller, lost Abby. I wrote Abby Miller in my notes. Abby I saw her like every day. Okay, whatever. Abby Myers. They lost Elisa Pinzon, who was their point guard last year. They lost Gia Cook, who was a young player that they had recruited last year. They bring in Jakia Brown-Turner from NC State.
Yes.
I don't know if you saw this. She was named the captain.
She was.
She was named the captain, and that's interesting. Cool. For a transfer to be named the captain, and then that's part of the thing, though. Is the starting five outside of Sellers grads, or they're at least seniors?
They're at least seniors, yes. Faith Masonis being, the mom of the group is what Brenda Fries calls her. She just loves taking care of everybody. She comes from a huge family, I believe 11 kids in her family, and I think she's towards the middle. I think she's 6. I'm digging out all my little nuggets for the games, but
she also had a great fit at Media Day. I just want, before we move on from Faith, she had an amazing fit at Media Day. I just saw it when we were talking about it.
It was very good. What was the pink,
right? Yeah, pink jacket.
Yeah, she was cute. That's my girl.
Sorry.
But for her to come back, as a leader of this group is awesome. But we were talking about the sophomore sensations that are out the Big Ten Conference last year. Sophomore sensation was Cheyenne Sellers, who took a huge jump, especially on the defensive end, and got her offense, kind of matching what she was doing on the defensive side in terms of numbers. So this year, what's junior Shy going to do? And I think that's the question that Brenda Fries has put to her, like, what's going to be different? And I think with her USA basketball experience that she had over the summer, Cheyenne Sellers, and also the fact that now, she's a junior, and she said, I've been poured into for 2 years, right? With Diamond Miller and all the players that she has played with. Now it's my turn to pour in to the next group, right? But in doing that, she doesn't realize this. And if you're listening to this, when you pour into others, you're actually also pouring into you, right? You're giving yourself the confidence and the trust and the integrity to stand on what you're pouring out, right? And I think for her, it's going to be huge for her to stand in that, right? Genuinely, and to be truthful with who she is and what she is. And I'll never forget Diamond Miller at the end of the season last year when they lost to South Carolina and the Elite Eight, I believe, down there. And she said, I was like, what has playing at Maryland meant for you? And she's like, I became Diamond Miller. I became a woman. And she was just like, she was so strong with what she was saying and how she said it. And I had the interview with Brenda Fries after that. And I said, this is what Diamond said. And she kind of was like, oh, like, because that's what it's about. You're a dream merchant. Like I said, Dawn Staley is like, you do more as a coach than what you think. Right. And Diamond's not going to go away remembering what zone offense they ran. Okay. Diamond's going to walk away from understanding who she is as a young person in this world, period. Right. Like,
Yeah.
how can she impact the next generation? And I think that's what we're going to see from Cheyenne Sellers and what she's going to become and what her words are going to be when she completes her career.
Yeah.
Like, I'm Cheyenne Sellers. Like, I became Cheyenne. Well,
Yeah.
I've been at Maryland, and this is another step towards that for her.
And I think well, I hope Diamond Miller does remember their zone offense. It was only a year ago. Like,
I mean,
do you remember the zone? Do you remember what zone offense you ran in at Maryland?
No.
Okay.
But I do remember like all the camaraderie things. I remember my girls, man, all that stuff. I mean, I remember, some presses and stuff, but only because I named it the same thing when I was coaching. That's the only reason.
You know it because you used it.
I used it. So yeah, other than that, no.
Yeah. And I think for Sellers, I mean, it's a great opportunity for her to have the ball in her hand. She's gonna have the ball in her hand. She's gonna be, the distributor of this group. I think that's gonna be a really huge part of her role because, but I did check; they are all graduate students. The other 4 starters that I have.
4. Okay.
Yeah, and I think all 4 captains, so we can pretty safely say this is gonna be a starting lineup. Lavender Briggs, Brianne Alexander, Jakia Brown Turner, Faith Masonis.
Yeah.
I like it. That's a good group. That's a lot of players though who are going to rely on Sellers to set the table for. For them, sorry, set the table and not only find for yourself, which has been a bigger part of her game in the last few years, and then last year she did kind of try to take more of a role in distributing and moving the ball around, and I think she did great. It's going to be another thing where it's about scaling that up and becoming a great passer, understanding this game to a larger level. I hope this team stays healthy, as we say with everyone.
Period.
But I think Jakia Brown Turner is a player who has been there. You talk about NC State. That's one of the most successful programs in the past. I mean, we could say like 15 years, but really like in her time there, they won 3 ACC tournaments. Was she there for all 3? She may have been there for only 2.
She may have been for 2. Yeah.
I think 2. I think she was only there for 2. She knows how to succeed. She knows what it takes to win. And that's just another player you're throwing in here that you can trust. Now, here's my question. I want to mention Bree McDaniel because I think Bree McDaniel is going to have a huge role in this team. I think she's going to be really good.
She's very good.
But I got 6 freshmen.
I'm listening. Yeah.
I got 6 freshmen on the roster, and I have like 3 of them being a part of this rotation.
Okay.
At the very least, Riley Nelson, who is the number 18 player in the country, she's gonna have to be a player for them this year.
Yeah.
And it's Brenda, how do I say this? Not the coach who loves playing freshmen the most.
Okay.
I think we could say that safely.
Yeah. I mean, I'm running in my head all the freshmen, but
she's played a lot.
Yeah.
Played a lot.
Yeah.
I think she was also on those and this is a great situation for a freshman to come in and be able to come and back up these very experienced players, and you have other players on your bench that are going to for sure. But I just think like one of these freshmen is going to have to step up,
yes,
and be a player that at the end of the year we're saying, wow, Maryland has this freshman that we are going crazy about. Like one of them is going to have to step up. Riley Nelson seems like the candidate. But I don't know. Does that give you any pause with Maryland?
No, I don't think so. I think, I think they have that great balance, like you said, like with those 4 players who are 5th year. I think you can't quantify that in terms of making reads. And that's part of what the game is about, right? You're going to have what you want to do both ways on offense and defense. But I'm speaking specifically on the offensive end. Like you're going to have to make reads when other teams are going to scout you. They're going to take away your first 3 preferred options and your first 3 preferred actions. Okay. What are you going to do now? You're on your 4th or 5th action. Shot clock is ticking. Okay. Make a read. Okay. So I think experience really affords you the opportunity to make the proper reads and have the reactions that you need to where the ball is on the floor. So I think the experience of that is going to help Maryland a lot. But I also think even if those youngsters get on the floor, if those freshmen are on the floor, they're going to be around a lot of players with experience. So there's going to be a lot of communication going on in those moments, which is what I was talking about earlier. Like it's not just the coach teaching, it's the players also pouring into these younger kids. So I think it's going to be interesting to watch that dynamic unfold as the season progresses. And it's going to be tough out of the gates, and that's what Brenda Freeze has done, right? Non-conference schedule has always been brutally honest, in terms of, hey, this is what we're going to do. We're going to attack the best. We're not afraid of anything. They're going to UConn after they go to South Carolina. So, I mean, they're going to be battle tested when they step into conference play, and that goes for the players. Like, they're going to get those minutes in those big games prior to conference play beginning, and they're just going to be surrounded by players who are going to make the proper reads, and they're going to be able to trust that with integrity. And as a coach, I'm sure Brenda Freeze has a lot of trust in those players as well, making those right decisions for the team.
I think it's the other thing here, and I mentioned it earlier, like the physicality of that starting group. It's a physical group. Sellers ain't afraid to hit you.
No.
And no one there in that program is afraid to draw contact. We'll say draw contact.
Draw contact. I like that.
They're not afraid to hit you and get in your face about it. I just think it's going to be for all four teams, smash mouth basketball. Smash mouth basketball. Or, it's not just about post ups anymore. That's not what smash mouth. It is about hitting you.
Sorry, go ahead. I was finessed. I was talking about people.
But hey, I think there's a physicality in the pressure, the defense. That's what the smash mouth part of it is. It's not necessarily just posting up. I want to get your rankings. I'm gonna put you. I'm sure you had to do this, right?
I did.
Yeah. So what was your ranking of the top four? I'm assuming you had all these four teams in the top four.
I did.
Okay. So how'd you rank them?
I had Iowa number one, just because they won it last year, right? So you have to, and I know they're different than last year, so don't send me comments about, well, they don't have Sonano. I know that. Okay. But I still think that they're disciplined enough to carry over Lisa Bluter's philosophy. So, and plus they're preseason ranked number one. So I wasn't alone in that notion. Okay. So number two, I actually have Ohio State.
All right.
And then Indiana, and then Maryland.
Okay. Wow.
And the only reason I have Indiana ahead of Maryland is post play with Mackenzie Holmes in there. I thought that was the little 51-49, in that decision. And I mean, Ohio State, we already spoke about that. Just the defensive pressure they're going to be able to apply. And when you're talking about defense too, you have to talk about Iowa and their variety of defense. So it's more based on the defensive stuff. And I think for Indiana, Maryland, with those two, I think it's based on more offense, right? Okay. The offensive strength of Indiana, I think, makes it 51-49 and 3-4. So
no, I have pretty much the same. All I have is Ohio State first and Iowa second, and then Indiana third, Maryland fourth.
Okay.
But I have them all in the same tier. Like I mentioned, you could tell me all these teams are about the same, and I just think I think really for me it was like the accomplishments of the best player, because you go where your best player takes you. Mm-hmm. You understand what I'm saying. You go where your best player takes you, and when you look at Caitlin Clark, like that is a player that can, outside of the Ohio State stuff that I mentioned because I had all those reasons, like Caitlin Clark, her accomplishments, her level of play, she can win you games single-handedly. I think Mackenzie Holmes can win you games single-handedly. We haven't seen Cheyenne Sellers do it quite as consistently. I think she can win you games single-handedly in a different way, though, not necessarily just scoring, like defense, steals, assists, all that. So, I mean, it was just like, hey, I think Ohio State is very, very good. And I think the other two teams have showed me more in the past year. Right. And Maryland is still an excellent team. Just want to see that come together without Diamond Miller. Because I think, who actually, let's do this. Okay. Which one of these teams lost the most?
That's a great question. And it's a toss up for me between Iowa and Maryland.
Okay.
Because they both had two starters instead of just one. Mm-hmm. Taylor Mikesell for Ohio State. And then, of course, we were talking about Grace Berger from Indiana. I mean, major names and impactful players for those teams. But Diamond Miller and Abby Myers, right? Diamond, obviously, with the WNBA's Minnesota Lynx. And then Abby Myers being drafted in the first round to the Dallas Wings, and then having a couple cups of coffee and some contracts signed here in DC with the Mystics. So I don't know. And we're talking about Warnock and Sonano already with Iowa. Oh, who lost the most? Wow. I mean, offensively, let's just go with offense. Man, I think if you go offensively between those two teams, I'm going to say Maryland lost the most.
So man. Oh.
I would say. That's tough though. It's probably close. And I don't even know, like, statistically off the top of my head, like points per game in percentages. And I know Sonano's percentage was astronomical. Boy, that's a great question.
Right.
That's a great question. But I would say with those two for Maryland and the percentage of what they scored for the team, I think that outweighs what Warnock and Sonano did combined for Iowa. Am I
No, I agree
with that. I think that, I mean, if you go, like, they scored, I don't know, 30% of their offense, and I think maybe Iowa was a little less. I don't know.
I think
that's a tough question. That's a great one though.
Maybe the way I was thinking about it is because I agree with you. But I think my rationale is I believe I'm more confident in who Iowa is putting into those spots just because they've played major roles and can and I think can replicate some of what Sonano and Warnock did with Skolke and Martin and whoever is coming in, Molly Davis. But you can really kind of replicate what you were doing last year, so you don't need as much change. For me, Maryland, so much of what they did was about Diamond Miller and Abby Myers, and not that their players are not good. It's just you have a lot more change. So that's why I say I agree with you. I think Maryland lost more just because of how much they're going to have to change their system, whereas Iowa, I don't think has to change quite as much. And I think there's a case here for Indiana as well, because when you look at when Grace Berger was playing, I think they got experience without her, which makes me a little bit more confident in them. But when Grace Berger played, I mean, she's such a major part of this team, and she did everything for them. And it's like you do have to adjust. But I think because they had that time to adjust last year, I think the transition this year will just be a little bit smoother. And then Ohio State, I think. Hey, I love Taylor Mikesell. I'm not saying she's not a good player, but
she's a killer.
They can really just continue doing what they did last year. And try to see what Celeste Taylor can do in some different sets. I don't think she can run the same sets as Taylor Mikesell. Taylor Mikesell is a very specific skill set. But I think yes. Shoot the ball. It's very unique. Shoot the ball. But I think just with Celeste Taylor coming in, they can kind of replicate exactly what they did last year. So I agree. I think Maryland has to change the most, but it's Brenda Freeze, and what we've been here for. This is going to be year 22.
I know.
How about the experience too? How about the experience of all these coaches? I mean, all four of these coaches have 10 years of experience. We can go down the line for the rest of the conference, and we're going to see a lot of coaches with a lot of experience. And then even the new coaches that are coming in are doing great. They're doing great. So I'm pumped. I'm pumped about these four. I think it's going to be huge battles every time they play. And hey, look, the rest of the conference is pretty good too. Actually, do you want to get into a sleeper?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to go with, well, there's so many. It's like everybody's a sleeper at the tag on Big Ten. But I mean, we're talking about players returning to the team and the roster, and Amy Williams and Nebraska. God, they have everybody back there too. You have Alexis Markowski coming back, floor stretcher, 6'3", can knock in the transition buckets from range. Double machine when it comes to being a force in the paint as well. But then Jazz Shelley, don't sleep on her, and that's why people don't talk about her enough and what Nebraska was able to do last year. And they had a great run in the middle of the conference segment of the season last year. And, they stay healthy too, obviously. But I just think that that's a team that no one's really talking about enough, and what they bring back.
And as we mentioned, they're going to have great fan support.
Yeah.
You don't want to go to Nebraska to play.
Oh, we already saw that with the volleyball with the 92,000.
You don't want to go there to play.
Yeah. Three or something.
I love Lincoln, Nebraska to go and visit because I love those people. And any group of people that is going to sit through Nebraska football and like absolutely love it for the past 40 years, you have to respect their level of commitment to this whole thing.
Yeah.
I know I'm getting off on a tangent.
No,
I just love
talk to me. Look.
I love Cornhusker fans. I really do.
They're solid.
Nebraska, they show up to anything.
Show up, man.
Everything. And it's they love it. And everyone has an opinion.
Yeah.
It's like you could be talking to anybody and they'll have an opinion on hey, you want to talk football? Okay, we can talk football. You want to talk volleyball? We can talk volleyball. You want to talk softball? Right. Sure. You want to talk baseball? Yeah, whatever. We play basketball too. Like basketball, men's, women's, whatever. We will talk about the Cornhuskers no matter what. And I love Nebraska.
Yeah.
Wanted to give a shout out. I will go out there soon to watch. Hopefully I can time it up and watch a football and basketball game.
Right.
So we'll see. Yeah.
Double dip.
Yeah, I would love to double dip. I'm with you though. This team last year, Nebraska, they were really good. I mean,
good.
You look at their offensive rating, 45th in the country, defensive rating, 53rd in the country. I don't have the math in front of me. I think there's a math formula for this, but I think they probably underperformed their stats in terms of their win-loss record, and I think a lot of that had to do with being in the Big Ten.
Yes.
It's not an easy conference to play in. And I think also, and just inexperience. And as you mentioned, they bring everyone back. So now they have experience.
Yeah.
So I think it's totally logical for them to be, maybe fifth in this conference this year, maybe even threatening to be fourth if there's an injury, if there's, shooting luck. And they're going to make some noise, hopefully, in the conference tournament. I could see it all. So I love that pick of Nebraska. I think for my sleeper, I mean, I think the other team here that's a sleeper is Illinois.
Yep.
Right?
Yes.
What Shauna Green did last year.
Oh, my God.
And like with swag too,
yeah.
Like the swag and just like the energy of the whole program change. It's like she got that thing going.
Yeah.
They added to their team this offseason. Look, I think they're a team that again is right in the mix with Nebraska. I'm not sure. I'm less sure of Illinois is the Illini.
There you go.
The Fighting Illini. Star power and experience and all of those things. I just think they're probably a year behind Nebraska in terms of our awareness. Because we've seen Nebraska even the year before last year, like, Nebraska's got something going. Last year we were like, oh, Nebraska's good. And then this year we're saying that they're a sleeper. We'll put Illinois in that category, but I would say they're probably in where Nebraska was last year. But they took such a huge leap in Shauna Green's first season.
They did.
That I wouldn't be surprised if they take another huge leap in her second season to become a force in this conference.
Agreed. And I mean, Shauna Green, she's just everybody across the conference. I mean, they are a treat to be around as people, period. And I was going to put that out there. Shauna Green, just getting to know her last year. It's really been fun to watch her give that program what it needed. And that was just, rejuvenating level of positive energy and organization. I mean, they cracked the code last year. They beat Ohio State when Ohio State was number 2 in the country. They were ranked up to number 14 in the country at one point, and really had some teams shaking in their boots, as the season progressed, like, oh snap, because they started coming together, their chemistry started evolving, and the philosophy that Shauna Green had implored of the team was in place. And I thought it was really impressive to watch how quickly that formed for her. And I agree. I mean, I know you only asked me for one sleeper team. That's why I said Nebraska, but if there's a second one for me, that's obviously going to be Illinois and what they're going to be able to do to build on last year. And that's what you want to do. You want to stack days. You want to get everything, going in the right direction. And that's exactly what she's doing.
Oh, and does Michigan count as a sleeper? I don't think we can count Michigan as a sleeper. I did get to see Kim Barnes-Arico talk. She's awesome. She's the best.
Love her. Yeah.
She's the best.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're a sleeper. They just didn't fit into the category of favorites, and they're not a sleeper. So
yeah.
I
So
just
what is
think
that? What do we need? We need to name that category. What is that going to be?
I think they're a good basketball team.
And I thought you were going to say others because how much I don't like their work.
No, that's just for individuals.
Okay, good.
I'm kidding. I love all of you.
No,
Okay.
because I hate that for teams. Anyway, but we discussed that last time. But yeah, but Michigan. Oh, we're staying on Illinois.
No, we can go to Michigan.
Oh, Michigan.
We're at an hour and 9 minutes, so we should.
It's
we go.
Stretch. Hey, no, Layla Filia. It's her time as much as it is, and she's a junior too. So we're talking about Cheyenne Sellers being a junior and having an impactful role, even more so. I mean, they've been impactful since they've been freshmen. Okay, but now I think you're going to see a player like Layla Filia continue to evolve for Michigan and Kim Barnes-Arico in that same manner, right? She did USA basketball over the summer as well. She had an opportunity to expand her game. And I think in speaking with Kim Barnes-Arico and Layla at the media day in Minneapolis a couple of weeks ago, they were both saying how much that stretched and evolved her game because she wasn't the player that they were going through on the offensive end. Right. She became more of a facilitator. Yeah. Defensively, she had different roles and responsibilities on the defensive side that stretched her game. So I think seeing her in this leadership role, but also with the expansiveness of what she was able to do with her skill set over the summer with USA basketball, I think I'm going to be really excited to see what that looks like for Michigan and how they utilize that. Like they still need for her to be that scorer. Right. Yeah. But now I think she's going to have a multifaceted role for the team. And I think she is anticipating that. Kim Barnes-Arico is anticipating that. And, you're a junior. And that's when I think the light really comes on for players. I know it did for me, and there's a big jump between freshman and sophomore. And they always say, the biggest jump is actually after your second year in college and going into your third, because you understand your role, you understand what the team needs from you, and you work like a dog to get that done for the team. And you lead. Right? As a freshman and a sophomore, you're kind of being led, but as a junior, senior, you're leading. And you have to lead yourself first with integrity. And then I think that's going to show up for Cheyenne Sellers too, but also for Layla Filia in her junior season.
Well, I don't know why this just clicked for me, but when you said, Layla Filia is a junior, I was like, wait, Nas made a big jump. Nas Hellman made a huge jump in the same system.
That. Yes.
Different players. I'm not trying to say the same player.
Oh, no. But this part of it.
Right. And you look at the stats from Naz's second year to her third year, and it is a massive jump. I mean, she went from 17.4 points per game to 23.9 points per game.
Let's go.
All of the percentages skyrocketed.
Yeah.
Even the free throw percentage skyrocketed, the rebounds, everything. And obviously that comes with more touches. But that also came from that maturity that you're talking about. And that's exciting. I mean, I think when you look at the rest of this league and not the others, the rest of the people that are not in the favorites category, I mean, it's hard to get more excited about a player than Layla Filia in terms of that group.
Right. Yeah.
She is special. And this could be the year where the rest of the country says, whoa, wait a minute. She is special. And so, it has to be healthy, all that. But I like that. They do have to replace Emily Kaiser and Leah Brown. And Maddie Nolan transferred, which I didn't know. I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah.
Everyone's transferring. It's too hard to keep track of.
It's a lot.
But so, and that's three players that contributed, that were big part of the culture, all that. They bring in Lauren Hansen, and they bring in Elisa Brett, who was all MAC player at Bowling Green. And I have both of them starting at the moment. I'm not sure that's going to come to pass.
Yeah.
I have both of them starting at the moment. So some change there that could, hold back Michigan from being a great team early. But as Filia gets better throughout the season, I think they can make a lot of noise. So we can't put Michigan in the sleeper category.
Yeah, no.
We can't put them in the favorite category. They're in the Michigan category.
To the Michigan category.
Michigan category.
Right there. Okay.
Michigan has its own tier. Right below the favorites for me. And I think it's going to be a great year in the Big Ten for all of these teams. I'm pumped.
Same.
So I don't know if we have time for this, because I feel like we're talking so long.
Oh, we do have a long, yeah.
Yeah. Do we want to go through all of the teams? We could say one thing about each team, right?
Yeah, go. You can, like, what do we have? Like
rapid fire. Games? No, we have a lot of teams. Remember, this isn't the Big Ten anymore, Christy.
Oh no, how many did we go through? We just went through like 7 or 8 of them, right? Well, I'm talking about, we did the sleepers, we did Michigan, and then the top 4. So we did 7. Okay, so
there's like, what, 17? How many teams are in this conference? The Big Ten.
Not 10.
The Big Ten. The Big 10. The Atlantic Coast Conference, which we'll get into next week. The Atlantic Coast Conference with Cal and Stanford.
Oh.
Another conversation. A different.
I didn't see serious, so I went like totally quiet. Like, yeah.
All right, we'll go rapid fire.
Which is never for me. So. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So Purdue made a tournament last year for the first time since 2017. Lost in the first round. Great game, by the way. Was it the first round or was it the play-in
game? Say it again.
That was a play-in. Right? Is that playing?
Oh, the play-in game? I believe it was.
Or am I tripping?
I believe it was. Are you looking it up?
I'm gonna look it up. But tell me something about
like on the keyboard.
What? Tell me a little bit about something about Purdue. One thing about Purdue.
Yeah, I mean, Katie Gerald's, right? And what she's been able to do, coming back to her alma mater, played in the WNBA, and you'd love to see that dynamic. But I think, just the energy that they play the game with. I know they had probably more turnovers than they wanted midway through the conference season when I had them a couple of times. I know that was like something that was circled for them to take better care of the basketball. But I think when they did take great care of the basketball, they had some really great wins. Didn't they also beat Ohio State? Wasn't it?
Yes.
Right.
I would look that one. So I did look up there was the playing game.
Okay. That's what I thought. That's what I thought. Good news for me and my callback on that. Trying to give myself a little credit sometimes. No, just for agreeing to something that I knew was right. Anyway, but with Purdue, I just think that just the way that they play the game hard. They play the game smart. They fight every opportunity they can get to the rack. They get to the rack, and they give opponents pressure in that way. So just the way that Katie Gerald has this team going, much like Shauna Green, right? Mm-hmm. Like you see the trajectory and you see the build and you see what can be for this team and this program. So I think Purdue is going to be another fun team to watch in the conference, but I think it's going to be their energy and their effort. Like you cannot measure that. And Katie Gerald's like, you watch her coach and she just gives everything to those kids and you have to respect that. And as a player, you have to trust that, if you see your coach giving everything like that, it's a given that you're going to do the same on the floor.
Okay, let's sorry, I agree. No, we're going to move on to Rutgers. This is going to be their first season officially without Coach Stringer, right? Or am I?
No, last year was.
But she wasn't that. Yeah. Did she? Okay. Yes. She retired last year.
Before last year. Yeah.
Before last season. Okay. Yeah. I didn't remember if that was before. Yeah. It's fine. I thought she was on leave last year for whatever reason. I don't know. Mm-hmm. I'm tripping.
It's okay.
Whatever.
No, but it was good to see her at the WNBA games though.
Yeah, it's great. And
CViv sightings. I love her. I love you, CViv, if you're listening.
And it's like, this is such a
difference.
This is such a different world. I mean, this is not what we haven't seen a Rutgers not coached by CViv and Stringer since 1995.
I know.
We haven't had college basketball
30 years
without this woman since 1972.
Boy, Cheney, and then Iowa, and then Rutgers. Wow, almost 50 years of coaching for her.
So I think that's my thing with Rutgers is like, this ushers in a new world.
Yeah. I mean, Coquise Washington. I mean, she's no stranger to the Big Ten after coaching at Penn State for years, and then coming back to the conference. And then I know in speaking with her last year, and taking the job after C. Vivian Stringer. I mean, that's a lot of pressure, but she's built for it. I mean, she was part of she was president of the Players Association in the WNBA when she was playing the league. And I just think that she's a lawyer also, FYI.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So you guys are kindred
Oh my God.
spirits.
Oh, we gotta talk.
Yeah, you got to check her out. Talk to her a little bit. But Coquise, like she loves the challenge. And last year, getting the job so late, and I know she talked about that too at the beginning of last year. She was talking about how, we didn't have a chance to really go through the portal or get any players because everyone was already taken when they got the job. So they played last season, Gabe, with 8 players. 8. And then good luck staying healthy. Number one, like someone's going to tweak an ankle or something like that. Now you're down to 7. Someone's going to get in foul trouble. Oh my God, you have 5 kids. You know what I mean? So they have this like whirlwind of, change, obviously with the coach, Steve Vivian Stringer retiring, and then a new coach coming in and trying to implement a system with 8 players, and then go through the Big Ten.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things handed to Coquise Washington there, but I think they'll be better for it this year. And understanding the fact that, what Coquise Washington understands about the league, about it being physical, about it being rugged. I think that's going to take them a long way. But that's another team that, average almost 20 turnovers a game. But I remember Coquise saying it's not going to be about, the dead ball turnovers as much as the live ball one. So we just have to do our best. They didn't have a point guard last year, and a lot of that miscue activity was because of that. So I think they're going to be better for it this year. And they have some pieces. I know they picked up a transfer from Carolina, and she's going to be impactful for them as well. So
yeah, Destiny Adams is a really good player. Yeah. She didn't get a ton of run at UNC, mainly due to the other players on the team. The other players on the team are really good too. But I think Destiny Adams could be a player on this team. And I'm looking at Coquise's resume.
Yeah, phenomenal.
It makes me look real bad. So she played at Notre Dame.
She did.
Then she went to law school at Notre Dame, which is one of the tops in the country. And then she played professional basketball for 6 years in the ABL, sorry, and the WNBA.
Yeah.
And then she's been coaching at Notre Dame, Penn State, Oklahoma, Notre Dame again, and then Rutgers. So the resume is good. I hope I think they're gonna have a better season than they did last year, but just stability and building for them would be positive. I think that's where you're at when you have a second year head coach.
Agreed.
And especially when you're trying to like reset.
And
so I think just getting better for them will be huge. And speaking of coaching changes, let's talk about Michigan State.
Yeah, Robin.
I mean, this is another thing like Rutgers had last year. Susie Merchant was there forever. So what? Give me something about Michigan State.
Oh man! And first, welcome to the Big Ten, Robin. I mean, she's the sweetest. I just think that she spoke about this at Media Day, and I think she was being so genuinely honest about the. I'm going to say struggle. I don't want to put that. Let's make it sound negative, but the challenge. Right, of coming in to a program where Susie Merchant unfortunately health-wise couldn't continue to coach, and I know that has been an emotional hurdle for everyone to cross. But at the same time, you're walking into this program where there's like a sense of familiarity because they have a lot of the same players, but the philosophy has changed. So as a player, I know that's tough, to come in and just what we were saying earlier about all those teams at the top returning so many players, and, they start on square 10 instead of square 2. And now, even though you have some of the same personnel, you're basically starting at square 1, right? Implement that when you're trying to implement that. So I think that's going to be interesting to see how Robin gets her philosophy transcribed, if you will, on the court. And what that looks like for them. But I think they'll be okay. I think they'll have they might have a learning curve at the beginning, but I think once conference play begins, I think they might be, flirting with that sleeper moniker, maybe the honorable mention sleeper team. But I just want to see what they look like. with her at the helm, and what she's going to do with those chess pieces. That's what I want to see, how she's going to play that.
Okay. I'm hope Michigan State just as you mentioned, just introduce yourself.
Yeah.
I think that's my hope for that. Might be pretty impressive. I don't know. Maybe you know more about this than I do. Minnesota, the Golden Gophers. Dawn Plitzowite, very proud that I could pronounce her last name.
Darn good.
Right. I had to. So when they came to Maryland last year, she was with West Virginia. And I was like, I'm going to learn this woman's name. And then right when I saw it,
P is what I call her.
when I was looking, I was like, I'm going through all the teams and the rankings to make sure we don't miss anybody.
Yeah.
I saw her name. I like very briefly panicked. I was like, oh my God, I know how to pronounce this woman's name. And so it took me a while. I don't know if maybe there's film of me like realizing it's Plitzowite. So Dawn Plitzowite coming over from after 1 year at West Virginia, coming to her home in Minnesota. Did she go there? I think she went there. Or
that's a good question. I'm sorry, I did not know that. She went to
Michigan Tech. She went to Michigan Tech.
Michigan Tech.
She's from Wisconsin. That's what it is. And she coached at South Dakota. So
I remember the South Dakota run that she went in the tournament. I had her at the tournament game a couple of years ago.
So I mean, South Dakota, Wisconsin, Minnesota, same thing. Same thing. I'm kidding. All of you people, I know.
So am I. So I'm with Gabe. Wait, with Gabe.
We're joking. We know you guys are all different with your little accents. Give me something on Minnesota year one of Coach Plitzowite's tenure.
Yeah. Laura Braun, right? I mean, she was on the all rookie team or all freshman team. I always say that because we're just out of WNBA season, but she was on the all freshman team in the Big Ten last year. And I think she's due to make a huge jump. I mean, she had the basketball in her hand a ton of times last year. Lindsay Whalen, was a good role model for her in that way. But Coach P, I mean, she's gonna be great. I'll say Plitzowite when I do the broadcast. But it looks like the alphabet. I mean, no shade, but gosh, her name is tough when you look at it. But when you say it out loud, but I think, she's going to be impactful because I remember when she was coaching at South Dakota and how she had them on the move on the defensive end, right? And the pace that she wanted to play with that team in the tournament, was tough to cover. And I think that she's going to try to implement that style of play. So I'm going to see what that looks like, obviously with different personnel, but I want to see what she is going to try to, infiltrate in terms of style for that team. And I know she's going to have them be disciplined because that's what she was. I mean, I was in the huddles. I heard her, right? I saw her with the whiteboard. She was very good in terms of her communication skills and very clear with what was expected of the players and holding them accountable to that. So, and they loved it. Right. And they all were on board with it. And that's half the battle right there, having people buy in to what you want from them and staying accountable to that. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what they look like with who I know her to be. And although it was brief, I still had a good snapshot of what her understanding of the game was, number one, but understanding of the style that she wanted her team to play. Like, I think there's a high level of respect there for her.
Tough as nails.
Yeah.
That's she plays tough. All right, Wisconsin. Give me one sentence or one thought. Single thought on Wisconsin.
Better than last year.
Good.
Hey. What are we on the time? Better than last year. I need a buzzer.
Sarah Williams. Okay. Penn State. We could go two things here. I got one.
I know what you're going to do.
No, I'm going the other way.
Okay.
Taylor Valladay from Virginia. Okay. She's good, man. I didn't know where she ended up. I've forgotten about it because of the other thing we're about to talk about with Penn State. Yeah. But she's a darn good basketball player. She can score. She could set the table. I think she's going to make a big impact there for Penn State. So yeah.
Flat out hooper. I think they have a lot of great pieces, right? And another player who they picked up from Virginia Tech is Ashley Owusu.
By way of Maryland.
Okay. Thanks, Gabe.
Back in the conference.
Come on, man.
You went back to the carpet store. Okay, that's a very niche joke. If anyone gets that, please let me know. Yeah, Owusu. Yeah, she's
You make a difference for them, man. I'm telling you. And
yeah.
just the understanding of the conference. I mean, I know she was at Virginia Tech. She had a good first part of the year before she broke her thumb or the bone in her hand. And then kind of fell out of the rotation with Kenny Brooks down there. And then obviously they made the Final Four run. She wasn't playing. She did not play in that or any time pretty much during the towards the end of games, which, you know, and hey, Kenny Brooks, that is your right as a coach to make those choices. But anyway, just her role for this team is going to be really interesting to see because with the basketball in her hands, I mean, she's a maestro when it comes to, she's a maestro when it comes to recognition, awareness, and making proper plays for the team. And whether that's getting all the way down into the cup area, the restricted area, and finishing in transition, or setting the table in the quarter court and playing with poise and confidence. But she also brings strength, you know, physically stronger than a lot of guards. So sometimes I remember when, you know, she was playing at Maryland, you know, she got posted up a lot, you know, and she was in cross matches, even if it was her primary defender. I mean, it's a cross match because of position, right? And now you have the smaller guard on you and she was just sit right down, boom, on the block, and then just go to work and get into the chest of her defenders and make them pay. So I think you're going to see a lot of that, you know, for Penn State, and let her just do what she loves to do. But I think Penn State's going to be a better defensive team than they were last year, just overall. And we're talking about the offensive prowess of those two, you know, the kid from Virginia and of Owusu. But, you know, defensively, I think they're going to be more sound.
I think for Owusu, for Ashley, just like I want happiness, peace, prosperity. Like she was not happy last year. No. And that's heartbreaking. Especially for a player that we got to know, got to see up close, got to see how electric she was and happy on the court. You know, last year was not easy, and so I think she's going to come out and hopefully peace, happiness, maturity, all those things will come from Penn State and being in a situation where, you know, hey, she's probably a top dog. She's probably gonna be a top shooter on that team, gonna have the ball in her hands a lot. So I think it's a good spot for her, and I'm happy. I hope she is going to be happy there. Northwestern, one thing, I don't know. I don't want to.
They have more experience than last year.
I'm sorry, Northwestern.
No, they were babies last year. They had puppies, and that's what Joe McEwen called them. He was like, "We have a bunch of puppies. Like, you know, they want to run their Blizzard style defense, and he just didn't have it. They didn't have it, you know, in terms of the understanding. Like you can say, like, this is what we want to do." But
it was more of a dusting defense.
Yeah, it was a little, dusting. The schools aren't closed, you know, but they need that full blizzard to keep you out of school 2-3 days. They need that level of blizzard defense at Northwestern. And I think because they were so young last year, I think they're understanding a little bit more. They weren't healthy either, so they were young and injured for most of the year last year. I think they only won 2 conference games. Am I correct?
Yes.
2. Yes. And that's tough. That's tough. But for a young team, you know, that should make you hungry. I mean, and to understand that you can make that big jump together.
Hopefully someone turns into the next Veronica Burton.
Yeah.
That's what they need. You need a player like that to do what they do. So hopefully they have someone there that can develop. That's it. All 14 teams in the Big Ten. I hope. I didn't keep track of it. So if we missed your team, it was malicious and personal. We did it to be mean.
Gabe. It was malicious on Gabe's part.
I did it to be mean. I don't like you. No, I'm kidding, guys. If we missed you, I'm sorry. We'll talk about all of these teams throughout the season. I mean, we love the Big 14. And I think it's going to be another amazing year, maybe another banner year, maybe even more teams in the NCAA tournament. So I'm just pumped. Glad we got this in a brief 1 hour and 30 minutes.
Boy, I need to be more concise with my stuff.
There's too much to talk about.
I know, it's a lot.
We talked about 14 basketball teams today, though.
We did do the entire Big Ten conference.
So be happy, folks.
We did. Yeah, be happy.
We're hanging out with you.
Yeah, we're chilling with you guys. Hey, and I know I don't want to leave without saying one thing, and I'll be very brief since we've been on here so long. However, the women's basketball world lost another pillar in Tasha Butts at Georgetown. Unfortunately, at 41 years old, passed away after a 2-year battle with breast cancer. And man, I tell you what, my daughter plays at Georgetown. She's a junior, talking about junior year and all of this. It was Tasha Butts' first year with the Hoyas. Got the job in April. And, just 5 days ago now, I guess, she passed away. So it's been tough. And, especially for a Tennessee women's basketball family and fans. So sending love to the Butts family, to Tennessee, who obviously just lost Nikki McCray, who was an assistant coach at Rutgers with Coquise Washington last year. Just saw her, talked to her and everything. So it's just, I saw Coach Butts. She was at the Mystics games this summer. So, man, life is fleeting. And it's just really disheartening and really crushing to know that, we lost those two within 4 or 5 months of one another, from the Tennessee family, but also obviously from the world of women's basketball. So just want to give our condolences to the Hoyas program, and again to the Butts family, and to everyone who was impacted by her light.
It's just devastating, and there's not much more to put it.
No.
But Tasha strong.
Yeah.
That's what we say. So I think that doesn't leave you. And it's just tough. And my heart goes out to all of her players and Georgia Tech, where she was when she got that news, and everyone has been with her, LSU as well, where she coached, Duquesne, UCLA, everywhere is touched. Was touched by her, and she leaves a big imprint on this game. I think it's just devastating, but it's not. Her legacy is going to live on. Absolutely,
and through the game that she loved, she just imparted so much wisdom in the short time here in DC. So sending prayers and prayers of comfort to everyone who was impacted by her presence, for sure. And I hate to send us out on a somber note, but it's like we said, it's not an excuse, it's reality. And it's what we have to deal with. It's a door we'll all walk through at some point. So just sending immense prayers and all that love to everyone impacted. But we will be back next week to bring you ACC, right, Gabe?
Yes, we will. Lot of another conference with a poor name now, but yes, we'll be talking ACC next week.
Yeah.
I'm pumped about it.
Yeah, no, that'll be fun. Basketball season's right in front of us, and we can't wait to bring you all the action right here on the Her Hoop Stats Podcast Network. I'm Christy Winter-Scott for Gabe Ibrahim. This has been Courtside with Christy and Gabe. We will see you next time.